You know, as a Canadian and in my 40s living in Vancouver, Canada, I think I have this idea that has been ingrained in my mind since childhood, I guess, that Canada has one of the best healthcare systems in the world. I think that's changed a lot. I'd argue that in our public conventional healthcare system here in Canada, that it's designed a lot like other countries that we would probably think of as much lower in reputation for healthcare around the world. It's designed to help you only when you're already sick. And that's probably why I have a job. Now, there are all sorts of different opinions about how a public healthcare system might be evaluated and how we can decide that. And that's not what this video is all about and what I'm trying to talk about. But I do think it's safe to say that the global opinion of Canada's public healthcare system has declined dramatically over the last, well, certainly in my lifetime, and probably most severely in the last 10 to 15 years. I think a really big part of that is the emergence of a global realization, I think, that healthcare systems should be about promoting optimal health and about keeping people healthy, not just about treating disease and dysfunction. I mean, I believe that, having a public healthcare system that ensures that Canadians get good quality of care for acute injuries and life-threatening infections, for instance, is essential. I'm never going to argue against that. But when Canada is spending over $250 billion per year on healthcare for 40 million people, and the average family is paying almost $15,000 a year for public healthcare insurance, surely a dose of prevention and proactive thinking can help to mitigate the costs associated with treating chronic disease in particular. Now, as a naturopathic doctor, one of the tenets of my philosophy is about respecting our individual uniqueness, how our bodies are built differently, right down to the DNA level, for instance. Our conventional acute care emergency medicine system, which our public healthcare system is built around, it's just not designed for individuality. It's quite irrespective of our uniqueness and individuality as people. It's irrespective of our context of what's going on in our lives right now. It just cares about whether or not we can save your life right now. It's built for the masses. It's built for making decisions about life-threatening situations very quickly, which is really important if I'm hit by a car, for instance. But when it comes to chronic diseases and staying healthy or promoting optimal health, I think the public system just cares about whether you're not sick. And if you're not sick, then there's not much that it can do for you. Our healthcare system isn't set up to care for your health. It's entirely set up to treat disease and dysfunction. It's a disease care system. It's a dysfunction care system, not a healthcare system. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it is missing something. There are, for instance, things that you could be doing to save your life in 10 years or change your life for the better right now, things that you could be doing. And the compounded benefits of taking health-oriented steps right now to improving your health can change the quality of your life dramatically in 10, 20, 30 years down the line. But you're never going to know those things, and you're never going to know what those things are because our conventional medicine doctors aren't trained to give you this information in our public system. It's a failure of the system, not of the people. I'm not saying that doctors don't want to do their best to help promote optimal health, but we're just not trained for that in our conventional system. That data that could positively change your health and make a positive impact on you now, I just think that stuff needs to be unlocked. If you're struggling, for instance, with low energy and fatigue, burnout, the number one thing that I work with in my practice and see in my practice, or maybe you want to move to a more plant-based diet, one of the things I think that you really need to know are what are the levels of B12, vitamin B12 in your blood. But on top of that, you also need to know how your body is built to absorb vitamin B12, how it's built to transport that vitamin from your blood into your tissues. What's in your blood is not necessarily reflective of how your body is using that in the tissues or at the cellular level. And we do have data that we can discern from your DNA, for instance, and from our blood tests that can give you those answers to really allow you to make individual decisions about what to eat and how to alter your lifestyle or what supplements to take, for instance, or what forms. So it's not just about, in this particular case with B12, it's not just about what your blood levels are, but it's how your body is designed to utilize those particular vitamins and how it works with them in your body. If you're trying to lose weight, another really common concern in our offices is weight management, obviously. You need to know not just whether or not your blood sugar levels are high or out of whack, but you need to know if your tissues are insulin resistant. And you need to know if a specific mutation in a gene called TCF7L2, for instance, predisposes you to higher carbohydrate sensitivity. So if you have a particular version of that gene, you're more likely to see bigger impacts in terms of carbohydrates, even the more complex kinds that, generally speaking, we talk about, oh, we should eat more complex carbohydrates, lots of fiber. That's not necessarily the best recommendation for every single person out there based on some of the genetic data that we have. So that's the kind of like leverageable data that I think that is sitting in your blood and in your DNA. It's like a literal instruction manual for how your body is built to function at its best. That's the data that doctors aren't trained to give you, and it's because they're not trained to improve your health. They're trained to get you not sick. They're trained to treat diseases and dysfunctions, for better and for worse. And of course, there's a time and a place for that, and I'm utterly grateful to live in Canada and have access to that. But if you're like the parents and the entrepreneurs and the business leaders that I work with on a regular basis, you probably want confidence and clarity on not just whether or not your health is optimal, not just that you're not sick, but you want to know, what are the opportunities for you to be better, to improve yourself, how I can become more resilient, how I can invest in my health for the benefit of my future quality of life. That's what I think a healthcare system should ideally look like, or at least contribute to. The lack of a proactive, preventive, and personalized approach to medicine in our public healthcare system is honestly the reason I probably have a job. And let me be clear one more time, I am very grateful to live in Canada and to be Canadian and to have access to public healthcare for acute care in particular. But the reason that I do what I do is because I believe in arming people with the information that they need to be to make proactive and future-oriented decisions about their health, not just to prevent disease or dysfunction or to overcome pain or a pain point, but to learn how to be the best version of themselves. That's what I'm all about. So let me know in the comments. What do you think? Am I crazy, or is our healthcare system not actually about health? Let me know what you think. I'm Dr. J. This is Mindset Resilience. Hope you're having an awesome day and keep being awesome.